The rain hammered against the glass facade of Meridian Industries as 7-year-old Noah Bennett pushed through the revolving doors, his school blazer soaked and torn. His babysitter, Mr. Garcia, stumbled in behind him, frantically dialing on his phone. Employees in the lobby turned to stare, but Noah's eyes searched desperately until they landed on a figure in the corner. "Ms. Rachel," he screamed, his voice cracking with panic. "Please, you have to help. They hurt my dad. He's bleeding and he won't move." The woman with the cleaning cart looked up. Rachel Hayes was 42, with weathered hands and silver streaking through her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. For 4 years she'd been part of the building's invisible workforce, arriving before dawn, leaving after dark, existing in the spaces between other people's important lives. She set down her spray bottle and knelt to Noah's level. Her expression remained calm, but something sharp flickered in her hazel eyes. "Show me," she said simply. Noah grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the stairwell that led to the underground parking structure. Mr. Garcia was shouting into his phone, "Emergency services. Meridian Tower, sublevel 3. Please hurry." Rachel moved with purpose. 4 years of silence, of being overlooked and underestimated, fell away with each step. This wasn't about invisibility anymore. This was about a child who needed her. Rachel Hayes hadn't always been a maid. 12 years ago she'd been Lieutenant Rachel Hayes, Special Forces medic, deployed to some of the world's most dangerous conflict zones. She'd performed field surgeries in bombed-out buildings, extracted wounded soldiers under hostile fire, and earned 3 commendations for valor. She'd also been married to Captain Marcus Hayes, an intelligence officer who worked alongside her unit. They'd been the military's power couple, brilliant, dedicated, inseparable. They talked about the future. Private practice together someday, maybe teaching at a medical school, definitely kids. Then came the mission that changed everything. Marcus's team was gathering intelligence in a hostile territory when their position was compromised. Rachel was with a medical unit 15 miles away. She heard the firefight over the radio. Heard Marcus's voice, calm and professional even as chaos erupted around him. The last thing he said was, "Rachel, if I don't make it," and then static. He didn't make it. None of his team did. Rachel finished her deployment mechanically, saving lives while her own heart remained shattered. She received an honorable discharge, let her medical credentials lapse, and drifted for years. Eventually, she found work that required nothing from her but physical labor and anonymity. Meridian Industries never asked about her past. They just handed her a uniform and a cleaning cart. She kept a small apartment across town, furnished with second-hand furniture and painful memories. On her dresser sat a photo of Marcus in his dress uniform, smiling that crooked smile she'd fallen in love with. Some nights she could look at it. Most nights she couldn't. But she'd found one small purpose: volunteering at a youth center teaching street kids basic emergency care. She never mentioned her military background. She just showed them how to stop bleeding, how to recognize shock, how to save a life when nobody else was coming. Noah Bennett had wandered into that community center 8 months ago, a lonely CEO's kid whose nanny brought him to keep him occupied. He'd been drawn to Rachel's quiet competence, the way she never talked down to anyone, the way she actually listened. They'd become friends in that undefined way where age differences didn't matter. He never knew she carried a compact trauma kit in her cleaning cart. Nobody did. The parking garage was dimly lit, shadows stretching between concrete pillars. Noah led Rachel to where his father lay crumpled near a black SUV, Mr. Garcia hovering helplessly nearby. Documents were scattered across the oil-stained floor. Marcus Bennett was 38, the self-made CEO who'd built Meridian Industries from nothing. He'd also been raising Noah alone since his wife died from cancer 4 years ago. Right now he was unconscious, his face bloodied, his breathing shallow. Rachel's training took over instantly. She assessed the scene in seconds. No immediate threats, one victim, traumatic injuries. She dropped beside Marcus and her hands began moving with clinical precision. "Head trauma, possible skull fracture," she muttered, her voice transformed from maid to medic. "Chest contusions, broken ribs likely. Internal bleeding probable." She checked his airway, his pulse, rapid and thready, his pupils. One was dilated. "Not good." Mr. Garcia stared. "How do you—" "Call 911 back," Rachel interrupted, unzipping her cart's hidden compartment. "Tell them we need a trauma team on standby. Head injury, suspected internal hemorrhaging, patient unconscious and deteriorating. They need to be ready to move fast." From the compartment she pulled supplies that had no business being in a maid's possession. Sterile gauze, hemostatic agents, a cervical collar, medical tape, a field trauma kit that belonged in a combat zone. Noah watched with huge eyes as Rachel worked. She packed the head wound, stabilized Marcus's neck, checked for additional injuries with practiced efficiency. Every movement was deliberate, economical, professional. Noah, Rachel said without looking up, talk to your dad. Tell him you're here. Tell him he's going to be okay. The boy knelt down, his small hand finding his father's. Dad, it's me. Ms. Rachel is here. She's really good at this. You're going to be fine. Please be fine. 4 minutes later, sirens wailed outside. Paramedics rushed in with equipment and expressions that shifted from efficiency to surprise as they saw Rachel's work. Who did the initial response? The lead medic asked, a burly man in his 50s. I did, Rachel said, standing back to give them space. He examined Marcus, checked the cervical collar placement, the wound packing, the positioning. His eyebrows rose. This is military-grade field medicine. You kept him stable. Probably saved his life. He looked at her uniform. You're a maid. Rachel didn't answer. As they loaded Marcus onto the stretcher, she stepped back, already planning to disappear before anyone asked too many questions. But Noah's hand caught hers. Please don't go. Please. I need you to come with us. Rachel looked down at this terrified child, and something inside her broke open. A protective instinct she thought she'd buried with Marcus. Okay, she said quietly. I'll stay. Marcus Bennett woke in the ICU 20 hours later. His head felt like it was splitting open. His chest screamed with every breath, and his left arm was casted. But he was alive. Dad. Noah's voice, thick with relief and tears. Marcus turned his head carefully. Noah sat beside the bed, Mr. Garcia behind him. Hey buddy, Marcus whispered. I'm okay. Ms. Rachel saved you, Noah said urgently. The paramedic said you would have died if she hadn't helped you. She knew exactly what to do. She had all these medical supplies and she was like a real doctor. Mr. Garcia nodded. It's true, sir. She performed battlefield triage. The emergency responders were stunned. Before Marcus could process this, a detective entered. A woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Bennett, I'm Detective Chen. I need to ask you about the attack. Marcus's memory was fragmented, but he managed to piece it together. 2 men, masks in the garage. They demanded something about financial files. When he refused, they'd beaten him viciously. He remembered one voice, someone he recognized but couldn't quite place through the pain and fear. Kevin Marsh, Marcus said finally. My CFO. I've been investigating discrepancies in our accounts. I think it was his voice. Detective Chen took notes rapidly. We'll look into it. Now about Rachel Hayes, the woman who saved you. She left before we could get a full statement. What do you know about her? She's a maid here. She's worked at Meridian for 4 years, I think. Noah knows her from somewhere. She volunteers at the community center. Noah interjected. She teaches first aid. Detective Chen flipped through her notebook. Rachel Hayes, age 42. Military records show Lieutenant Rachel Hayes, Special Forces medic, decorated combat veteran. Honorable discharge 12 years ago after her husband was killed in action. Since then, nothing, until she showed up at your company as cleaning staff. The word stunned Marcus. A decorated war hero had been mopping his floors for 4 years, and he'd never even noticed her. The investigation moved swiftly. Within 72 hours, Kevin Marsh and his 2 accomplices were in custody. The CFO had been embezzling millions through elaborate shell companies, and Marcus had gotten too close to the truth. The attack was meant to intimidate him into silence. It had nearly been murder. Throughout his recovery, Marcus kept thinking about Rachel Hayes. He had his security team research her background, though part of him felt guilty about the invasion of privacy. What they found was both impressive and heartbreaking. Lieutenant Hayes had been one of the most skilled combat medics in her unit. She'd saved dozens of lives under impossible conditions. Her husband's death had devastated her so completely that she'd walked away from everything. Her career, her future, her identity. When Marcus was finally released from the hospital 2 weeks later, he asked his assistant to find Rachel. She was still working at Meridian, still arriving before dawn, still invisible to everyone except Noah. Marcus found her in a maintenance corridor, organizing cleaning supplies. She looked up when he approached and something like resignation crossed her face. You should still be resting, she said. I'm told I'd be dead if not for you, Marcus replied. Thank you doesn't seem adequate. It was just first aid. It was expert trauma medicine performed with military precision. Marcus stepped closer. Why didn't you tell anyone who you were? Because who I was doesn't matter anymore. Rachel's voice was flat. I'm not that person. My son talks about you constantly. He says you're the kindest person he knows. Something flickered in Rachel's expression. Noah's a good kid. He didn't deserve to see what he saw. He saw you save his father's life. He saw courage when everyone else was paralyzed with fear. Rachel's jaw tightened. I wasn't courageous. I just couldn't let him lose his father. Not like that. Not when I could do something about it. And Marcus understood then. This wasn't about heroism. This was about a woman still trying to save the person she'd lost 12 years ago, channeling grief into purpose, one life at a time. Over the following months, Marcus made a decision. He couldn't undo Rachel's past, but he could offer her a future. He proposed creating a comprehensive employee wellness program with on-site medical services, and he wanted Rachel to lead it. I can't practice medicine anymore, she said when he approached her with the idea. My credentials lapsed years ago. Then we'll help you recertify. We'll give you the time and resources. Rachel, you're already doing this work, teaching first aid at the community center, carrying trauma supplies everywhere. Let me give you the platform to do it properly. She wanted to refuse. Every instinct told her to retreat back into invisibility. But Noah had started visiting her during his after-school hours, sitting with her while she worked, talking about everything and nothing. And Marcus had started joining them, and somehow the three of them had formed something that felt dangerously like family. She thought about Marcus, her husband, not the CEO, and what he would say if he could see her now. Would he want her hiding? Or would he want her to honor their shared belief that medicine was about service? Okay, Rachel finally said. I'll try. 1 year later, the Meridian Community Health Initiative opened its doors, a state-of-the-art facility offering free healthcare to underserved populations. Dr. Rachel Hayes, newly recertified, stood at the entrance greeting patients. Beside her stood Marcus Bennett and Noah, who'd appointed himself the unofficial welcomer. That evening, as they celebrated the successful first day, Noah pulled out a drawing. It showed Rachel in scrubs, surrounded by smiling people. In the corner, a man in a military uniform watched from the clouds. That's your husband, Noah explained. Dad told me about him. I thought he should be in the picture too because he's proud of you. Rachel stared at the drawing, tears streaming down her face. This child understood what she'd needed to hear for 12 years. That Marcus's memory lived on in every life she saved, every person she helped. Marcus wrapped his arm around her shoulders. We're proud of you too. And for the first time since that terrible day 12 years ago, Rachel Hayes allowed herself to believe she deserved to move forward, not forgetting the past but honoring it by building something new. A second chance at purpose, at family, at life.